So let's suppose you've decided that you want to protect. What are the main ways in which you can do this? Classically, the thing that most people tend to say is tariffs. So putting tax on imports, and most of this video I'll talk about that. You could also put physical restrictions. You could give subsidies to your own firms. You could use kind of bureaucracy. Kind of red tape barriers, bureaucracy, or you could use kind of currency controls, currency manipulation. So those are the main ways in which we could go about protecting. In this video, I'll talk about tariffs, which will take a while to explain properly, and then I'll do the others in the next one. So, what is a tariff? A tariff, very simply, is a tax on imports. So what its goal, obviously, is to drive up the price of imports, allowing local firms, to be able to take more of the market. It also raises revenue for the government, as we talked about before. So okay, fine. So there is a diagram, that's become widely distributed about tariffs. Lots of people know it, but not very many people understand it. So what I want to do is to lay it out for you, so that it makes sense. And this diagram it makes a number of assumptions. We're looking at something, a good way of thinking about this is some sort of primary product, like coal or something. And what we're saying is that the world market. In the world market, there is a fixed price initially, and you can buy as much as you want from this world market, and you can buy it at a constant price. You don't have to pay more if you want more of it. So what we're going to say, if you look at the diagram, what we're saying here is that there is that's output of coal. Here is the price of coal. All we're saying is that the world supply of coal looks like that. And all that's saying is that let's suppose that coal is $100 a ton or whatever. You can have as much as you want. There is no limit on the supply. You're a small market compared with Brazil and China and whoever the major producers of coal. But we're also, so assumption number one is that. But assumption number two is that you also have local suppliers. But local suppliers, what they do is they vary in efficiency. Some are very efficient, and some are very inefficient. So this is coal mines. So let's imagine there are some coal mines where the coal is really close to the surface. That's going to have very low marginal costs. There are some where the coal is like 10 miles underground, and that's going to be really expensive to get out. So what we've got is the marginal cost of a local coal is like that. Some firms are really efficient and have low cost, easy to produce coal. Some firms are really inefficient and have high cost coal that isn't going to be able to really compete on world markets. So you could have as much coal as you want at a price of $100. What would make you buy local coal? The answer is you'll buy local coal as long as it's at least as cheap as coal from the world market. Therefore, all of these coal mines here, their marginal cost is below the world price, and therefore they can compete. So up to there, local consumers would buy from local firms. So that is our local supply there. We've then got to look at the demand for coal. I'll just stick it on, doesn't really matter. There's the local demand for coal, and what we're saying, is that beyond this point here, I'm not going to buy from local coal mines. There's no point. Their costs are far too high relative to the world price. I can have all of the, so I bought 300 million tons from local miners. After that point, I'm not going to buy from them anymore. I'll just bring the remainder of my coal in from the world market. And let's call that, say, 500 million tons. So the base diagram then, we're saying that 300 million tons of coal is brought in from, is bought from local suppliers. 200 million is brought from abroad. There's a total demand of 500. imports are 200 million, local production is 300 million. Fine. So that's your base diagram. And let's suppose then, that what we decide to do, I'm just going to put this supply curve back. Let's suppose that the government says, well, I actually want to protect the local coal industry. So what they're going to do is they're going to impose a tax. I shouldn't get rid of the whole thing. I'll bring it back. I'll remember the numbers. So what's the effect? What's the effect of a tax? Let's suppose we put in a $50 per unit tax. That's only going to affect importers. So we said that originally you could buy coal at $100 a ton. Now they're just going to make local consumers pay. So that is the tax per unit. Instead of being able to buy coal at $100 a ton, now you're going to have to pay $150 a ton. So what does that do to our local market? So if we put our diagram back, then we said we had, I'll just make it a bit bigger for you. That was our world supply. You can have as much as you want at $100 a ton. That was the local supply based on marginal cost. These are the really inefficient producers up here, who have very high marginal costs. These are the efficient ones. We said that up to 300 million tons was going to be bought from local producers, and that's too big. And then we said that global demand, so local demand was that, and imports were going to be this 200 million units there. So what's the effect of imposing a tax? We said that what that does is it drives the world price up to $150. So what happens in the market? Well, the first obvious thing that happens is that demand falls. Price has been driven up to $150. So we're going to get a contraction in demand. So instead of 500 million tons being bought, now in total only 450 million tons of steel, coal even, are bought at all in the local market. The price is just higher. Consumers are losing out. The second thing that happens, of course, is that these producers here, these local producers, it used to be the case that they couldn't compete at all. That they were unable to compete with world producers because their costs were above $100. But now the price has gone up to $150. What's going to happen is that local production can now expand, and let's call that kind of 360 million tons. So on the one hand, local production has expanded by 60. On the other hand, local demand has fallen by 50. Therefore, there's been a reduction in imports by 110 million units. And what you can see is that now demand is 450, local supply is 360. Therefore, imports are now only 90. When, as we said before, they used to be 200, the gap between the two. And what we're saying is they've fallen for these two reasons. Firstly, a reduction, a contraction in demand, and secondly, an extension in supply. So what can we show using this diagram? We can show a variety of things. The first thing we can say is, well, look, there's a tax of $50. There are still 90 million units of imports. So therefore, every one of those units of imports has to pay $50 of tax to the local government. So therefore, that area there, 90 million units times $50, that's the tax revenue for the government. The second thing we can see is producer surplus. Producer surplus is the gap between marginal cost and the price that things are sold for. Originally, producer surplus was this area here. That was the price that local firms were getting, $100. Those were their marginal costs. But what's happened is that producer surplus has gone up. It's gone up firstly because existing firms are getting $50 a unit more. They can increase their price to $150 to match the price of global imports. But at the same time, there is more supply. These firms here are now in the market, so they're getting producer surplus as well because they're able to produce. So producer surplus has increased by the amount of the arrows there. So the arrows are the increase in producer surplus. Yeah, the kind of cross-hatched area is the tax revenue for the government. Consumers obviously aren't very happy. Yeah, consumers used to be at point X, and they were getting consumer surplus of the whole of that area here. Now price has been driven up. The equilibrium for consumers is at point Y. Yeah, and they're now paying that price, getting that much utility, but the loss of consumer surplus, yeah, is that whole triangle there. VW and YX there. And what you can see is that of that consumer surplus, that much has gone to the government, that much has gone to local producers, but there are two areas of welfare loss. This one, area 1, this is caused because now local inefficient producers, yeah, are the ones who are producing the coal instead of efficient world producers. So we are misallocating resources as a result of this government intervention. Yeah, so that area there, 1, yeah, that triangle there, yeah, it's known as the inefficient area. It's a welfare loss. You can just call it welfare loss if you want, but it's the inefficiency area. And area 2 over here, it used to be coal that was consumed in the local market. Yeah, local consumers used to be able to get utility from that, and now they don't. Yeah, so 2, yeah, is another welfare loss. And both of these things, yeah, are leading to allocative inefficiency. You could argue that this is a form of government failure, yeah, because it's preventing, yeah, the free market from working very effectively. So in principle then, yeah, what's the tax done? This one's getting a bit long. Yeah, on the good side, yeah, what it's done is it's raised tax for the government. Yeah, on the good side, it's increased, yeah, demand for local firms. Yeah, therefore maybe it's saved jobs. Yeah, it's increased, yeah, the profit, yeah, for local firms. However, it's clearly led to a disadvantage. It's clearly led to an increase in price, yeah, for local consumers. Yeah, when Trump said it's the Mexicans who are going to pay for the border wall, that's a lie, yeah, because when he put tariffs on, all it did is increase price for Americans. Yeah, actually, it may cost jobs in other sectors. So if you put a big tariff on steel, then actually what's going to happen is it's going to cost you jobs in the car sector because cars use steel, yeah, and as a result, they're not going to be able to compete either. Yeah, and there's an obvious risk of retaliation. Yeah, that if you put taxes, yeah, on products from other countries, then they will retaliate and damage your export sectors. Yeah, so when the US introduced a few years ago tariffs on steel, yeah, the response of the EU was to place taxes on Florida oranges, on Harley-Davidson motorcycles, and so on. So although you may save jobs in one area, yeah, you may lose jobs in another, and that's the tariff diagram.